Hello, I'm Steve. A little about myself. I'm a retired law enforcement officer with 20 years of service. I began my career in the jail, worked the road, and became an investigator. During my career, my training consisted of everything from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. I've investigated crimes from thefts to homicides. After retiring and becoming aware of true crime and web sleuths, I started my channel for web sleuths to better understand the perspectives of law enforcement. Not only do we cover true crime, I go out into the field and assist families who have lost loved ones to homicide and their cases are considered cold. Join me as we look and bring attention to these critical cases.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad you're here. And as you watch the video, if there's anyone new in the watching it for the first time, we wish to welcome you. Tonight, once again, I'm by myself. Mrs. Steve, who normally sits over here beside me, just got home earlier today. She's upstairs resting, so she should be with us next week. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for riding the storm out with me and bearing with me as I try to get through the chat and everything. And if you're new to chat, new to this channel, always be respectful of families, mods, and each other. As we look at this case, which we're going to be looking at the Idaho 4 and Kohberger as the accused, that if there's other names and names of certain individuals, I'm not really big into putting any names out there. I'll refer to certain individuals as offenders or as the witnesses. And so I just appreciate everyone's respect on that and try to maintain that level of awareness, and we would absolutely appreciate it. Before I get into some of the description about what we're going to be doing tonight, if anyone has any information about this case of Madison, Kaylee, Ethan, and Zana, absolutely make sure law enforcement has it. For the fact that we have an individual who has currently charged Kohberger, and he is innocent until proven guilty, but there is probable cause for him to be arrested and detained and awaiting trial. So, but we have to make sure everyone has all the information on that. One of the things that made me look at specifically the shadow and the low light conditions that we're going to be looking specifically at tonight is that we've done some previous reconstruction work of how in those low light conditions could the witness be able to see certain physical characteristics of the offender. I mean, it's extremely difficult. And but one of the and identify what type of weapon he had. How was that witness able not to see that weapon and identify, or did she just miss it due to the low light conditions? Which that's what I believe occurred. But one of the biggest things that a lot of people have been asking and talking about, and sending me messages and emails, is that, well, how could the offender walk within a couple of feet of a witness and never see them? And so with that thought in mind, it took me a few days trying to figure out exactly how I would reconstruct it, because I didn't have the exact floor plan with the dimensions. Plus, in my residence, while Mrs. Steve's in Florida, I have some ability to do certain things in the house and not disturb her but I didn't have anything that was matching that floor plan. So I had to go and recreate, went and got some whiteboard, and I'm glad I did, for the fact that, as y'all remember from last week when we did the previous show about when I put the offender on the trolley and was able to bring him across the room, that in those low light conditions, you could just barely see. Well, one of the miscalculations during that recreation that I learned on this is that with the whiteboard, we have more reflected light, and you'll see that tonight. We're going to have that creepy individual once again coming across the room on the trolley. And the one part of this that I reconstructed, and the only part I reconstructed of the offender, is during that critical time period when he would have walked by that neon picture and that reflective light, and where she may have been able to see some of his facial features. And it was a pretty good reconstruction. I have to say that from what I saw last week to what it is now, absolutely 100 times better. And you'll see that. But the part of the crime scene that I reconstructed is the living room area from where you see where the red offender is marked and the arrow pointing to. From that standpoint until he moves through that door is when he's coming through that lit area and going into the shadows of where she's at in the hallway. So I reconstructed the living room walls where the neon sign was and the opening into the foyer. And then with her doorway, I recreated a 32-inch door, which is pretty much the standard. Most doors are anywhere for residential doors inside are 28 to 36 inches. So I went with a 32-inch door and reconstructed one, did a half door. So you'll see some of the, I have images of all this so that you'll have a better understanding. And in that doorway, I'm glad I hinged it, and where I can show you that for her to see, that door had to be open far more than I first thought. And she would have had to stand in a couple of places at a certain angle that's pretty exposed, unless she was kind of, trying to just peer around the corners. But still with that door was open far more than I thought it would be. And you'll see that in this recreation. And in this recreation, I did everything I could to stack the deck against the witness not being seen. I used everything that would be easily or more easily seen in low light conditions. White t-shirt. I even changed that. This is normally, let me remove this for a second. This is normally the skin tone of the mannequins I use. I took this one off, and then of course I used this one, which is far more reflective and more, a little bit easier to be seen in low light conditions. Bright white, absolutely, the light that hits it is extremely reflective, and so you can see it. And then, of course, our individual that wearing the hoodie, of course, is this one. And I know some people have been asking about what kind of eyebrows he has. They're just painted on, but he does have a distinguished eyebrow ridge. But these are the characters that we're going to be, or the actors that I work with to make sure I tried to create and stack the deck against the witness, and so that if the offender, and I put myself in that position as the offender and walked through this, and it was absolutely stunning of what I saw, what I discovered, and it was amazing. And that's why I do these reconstructions, and so that I have a good understanding where I can stand on some type of firm foundation when I make an argument of why I don't think that the offender ever saw the witness. And you'll see why when we go through this. But anyway, before we get too far, I got to check, make sure if there's any questions in chat. Like I said, I'm trying to get caught up and do everything by myself. Probably won't be able to say hello to everybody, but we'll try our best. All right. We got Gail. Bam. Good to see you. Senior B. Doodlebug. Senior B. Olivia, too. Good to see you. And if you have any questions, if you're new to the channel, absolutely just throw them in there. And yes, and this is a good point that Di brings up. Guessing more nightmare creepiness from Mr. Steve tonight. And we have to remember that as creepy as it is and the effects it has on us just watching these recreations, that may have an impact on how the witness felt that night that she saw a stranger in her house, not knowing who he was and trying to identify him. It scared her and put her on a level that may have led to whatever conditions that put her in some type of shock. All right, let's see here. Yeah, I got all my dolls back and going. Hello, Junior. Good to see you. There's BG. Uh, hello, Brenda. Like I said, if you're new to the channel, just throw your questions in chat, and I'll try to get them. If I'm missing you, I apologize. I do. Oh, okay. Thank you, Gail, for your $10 super sticker. Appreciate that. Means a lot to us. Go on the road and try to do as much as we can, and this is part of the funding for that. Sharon Edwards, Texas Ranger, Sensei. All right, got caught up a little bit. All right, so now let's get back into the presentation part of it. And like I said, I have two positions. I put the witness in my recreation fully, almost exposed, totally stand in front of the door within the threshold of the door. And then I moved the witness to the second position down, whereas if the door was bladed open and that she was standing past the furthest point of the door, being about 34 inches away from the opening. The first position one, she's standing in the opening, probably 5 or 6 inches inside, and you'll be able to see all this as I set up the stage for you. This is what I was working with. Once again, we have the creepy guy, the offender on the left, and as you can see, the witness, I put her in a white t-shirt, put the brightest, whitest mannequin head I had, styrofoam head I had, and put blonde hair, everything that I could do that would collect and reflect as much light from these neon lights. And now, while her door is closer to the lights than what the layout of the house is, but I moved her up. Like I said, I did everything I could to stack the deck against the witness going unseen, and made the shadows as narrow as possible, and put as much lighting in there as I could. And so, and this is the what I came up with when I built the where the neon light or picture was on the right hand side on the whiteboard. I reconstructed exactly what I did in my previous show, except now it's on the whiteboard, and it has a corner, a 90-degree corner there that absolutely, as you'll see when I turn the lights off, the reflective value of it had a great impact as far as lighting up this small area in total darkness. This is what the view from the offender's shoulder will have looked like, looking towards, as you can see, through the opening into where you see that half door in there that will hinge open. This is the perspective of if Kohberger or whoever the offender, Kohberger is innocent to proven guilty, but he is the one charged. And so I'll use probably both terms tonight. But the offender, this would have been his view as he left the bedroom where two victims were, walking and going the route of where law enforcement said the footprint was recovered, which would have been somewhere in the area of where, after going through this opening. Like I said, I not having access to all the records and how they would have processed the scene and not knowing the exact size of the door, I went with pretty much the standard, which is a 32-inch interior door, and measured it, built this half door, and created it so that it swings open in the correct arc, and put her, and this is in position one, of where she's fully exposed. If you're looking at it from the foyer area, this is what you would see. If you're looking at her from the position, and I minimized her as much as possible, that if you're looking at her from where the offender is standing, walking towards this opening into the foyer, so that you would just have this partial viewing. And actually, you know, she still would have had the option of possibly leaning her head out and going into the corner. And of course, in the actual layout of the house, that opening is just a little bit further back. It's probably another 12 inches back, which would put her further away from the lights that I used, and the shadows would have been even darker. But like I said, I did everything I could to stack the deck against the witness going unnoticed. And from that position of where she's standing, I went in and took a photograph looking back towards where the offender would be coming from where two of the victims were found as they crossed the room. And then there's this position too, that if you look straight into the room and at the back of the 32 inches and those shadows, that if the lights are off, even from this lit up area, you can see that she starts to disappear even in this well lit room. And once again, this is the view from the offender's view. If he was looking down there and saw this door open and with all lights on, this is what in my recreation that the shadows created even in a fully lit room. And from that position, looking out, if you went in back 32 inches and was just peeking around the door, this is the view that you would have had from the victim or from the witness's viewpoint towards where the offender was coming towards you from where two of the victims were. So I try to cover everything I can and could in this recreation. And this is just looking at it from the side so you can see the 90-degree angle and where I put those lights up. All right, so that's what it is. And when you're watching the video, and I'm going to start video here in a minute, as I come through the opening in my studio, you're going to see, yes, there's a skeleton hanging on a coat rack in the studio. I know people are going to see it and they're going to make comments about it. But but Mrs. Steve, she's used to it, and so just bear with us. And I just didn't want that to take away from it whenever we do get to it here in a few minutes. All right. With that being said, let me get into remove that and try to get caught up on chat real quick before I get too far behind. Trying to unearth secrets. Good to see you. And Cat in a Hat. Good to see you. Sirius Black. Is she finally made it? Yes, you did. Thank you. Sensei's gonna have nightmares. Hello, Shelly, Junior, Fran. And Kat, like I said, that absolutely it makes sense on certain levels. Absolutely. Thank you for that comment. True crime web, and this is from True Crime Time. Do you think law enforcement put BK in a lineup for Dylan to view? I don't know. It's possible, but that's a high risk. I mean, she doesn't have all the features. Now, would they have just took a bunch of features from different individuals and done that? I don't know. Would I have? No. If she had seen the full face, probably, but just on the bushy eyebrows and that, for the, but they may have. And if they did, they did. But we'll find that out in trial. But I wouldn't have took that risk. That's just my personal opinion. Now, they may have. Truth Exposed. Good to see you. All right. Now, on the door opening, there's a closet that's to the left side of this opening. And so most people on the door opening would be the other way. And if it's the other way, which I don't know which way the door opening is, but most of the comments are it's opening from this direction, and because there's a closet that would be that if you were standing in the door, it'd be to the right, and opening a door against that closet is something typically because you can see that there's a door there. When you look at the diagram. And so taking a guess, as far as the construction part of it, is that this is what I would believe the natural opening of the door would be. Could be wrong, but I believe that's so. All right. Now we got that going, and so now we're going to, I'm going to turn off my cam, and I'm going to start the video. And so this is a recreation of me moving the mannequin on the trolley, bringing him towards the opening. And I'll repeat this in full light so that you can see as he would approach what he would look like in a well-lit area from. Now, this is position 1. This is where the camera is set up in position 1, and in the low light conditions. And you can see the silhouette. And I moved the mannequin back in stages to try to get where you can identify at what point you can see the reflection of the face. And it's pretty well, somewhere right here is where most of the facial is able to be seen. And whenever you're at home, if you turn off your lights and things and let your eyes adjust, you'll see a little bit more. But so this is the position of him from the offender standpoint, walking in, and when the mannequin is in position 2. I'll do this several times so that you can see that as the camera is coming across, that unless you're really looking, you're not even going to see them there. And now you'll get, the lights are off, and I'm going back and running through it. You can see this is the reflective light. Over to the left, you'll see where the dark entry threshold is going into the foyer. And as you walk by, now this is when the mannequin is in position 2, 30-something inches into the room. Absolutely. Even without, in my law enforcement career, if I didn't have a flashlight, if I looked in there, I wouldn't see her 32 inches back. And the shadows absolutely hides her in position 2. Changes just slightly, as you'll see whenever we do the next setup and I run through the camera when I move her to position 1. So now I got her in position 1, and we're going to run by, and that if the lights are on, it's obvious where she's at. There's no hiding. I run through this a couple of times, then I go in and turn the lights off, and to get that perspective of what would the shadow effects have on her from the offender's standpoint. So I turn off the lights, and here we go. Walking towards the darkened threshold, or the opening to the foyer. And now when I get into this foyer, I turn the camera directly towards the mannequin. I'm only about within arm's length. I mean, I'm probably 12, 14 inches away. And you'll see here in a minute when I use the display from the camera to show you that I'm within arms, because I'm just taking my left hand, holding it. You see my display as I bring it into the picture, and I shine it and put it next to her face. I'm about 16 inches away from her, and without that reflection of the display, you could do the same thing with your cell phone, and without that display being lit up, you wouldn't know I'm standing 12 or 16 inches away from her, just from those LED lights that once I go in there and do this. Now, I even did it with supplemental lighting such as if there was lighting from the kitchen area, because I know that some people brought up that there was additional lighting that was coming from the kitchen, which could be either the lights on the back sliding glass doors or lights from, night lights. And so I brought those light sources into it to cover all that, to make sure that I try to cover all the bases and, like I said, stack the deck against the witness. I'm standing there. I'm taking the console that's lit up, holding it up to her face, looking at the so that you can see the secondary lighting is there. Go back through the process. Trying to get y'all, as like I said, as well, and seeing everything I'm seeing. And then I stick it up, whereas you can see that, I'm within arm's length of her. And until you put that light right next to her face, you're not going to see that. And even when my lights got adjusted to this, let me remove this right now. And we go back to the start cam, that that when I went towards that darkened entry into the foyer, and then I went in there and hid and put my display for my camera up next to the face so I could get the reflection, so you could see how close I'm standing. It was absolutely amazing that regardless, that if I'd only used the non-reflective surfaces, it would have been even harder for for the witness to be seen. And so what I think happened is that the lighting from that room is absolutely what caused the offender to absolutely miss her, that he never saw her, that even when she was standing within 18 inches of her, he walked right by her, never knew it. And but that's just my opinion, and from what this reconstruction. And of course, this is the light reflection of the offender from the lighting. I just did a freeze frame of it for you so that y'all could focus upon it and see the details of the facial features of what the witness testified that she had seen. All right. Now let's see what we're going to do here. Remove that. All right, let me get caught back up on the chat. See what's going on in chat. If you got any questions, throw them in there. Yes, Anna, it was a party house. From my understanding, it's like a lot of things at these schools. Gail Hurd gifted one True Crown Web membership. Thank you, Gail. Thank you. And Melody, good to see you. And fella, Jill. But like I said, I wanted everyone to, and I'll, as we go through the questions, I'll let that run again as I look at questions and such. Y'all can see me doing everything I can. Hello, Matt. Joan. Proof exposed. You're okay. Proof had to make a sandwich. And it is curious. Why did the survivor roommates not call 911? And at the time, did she realize that anything really had happened? What was the normal atmosphere within the residence? Or did she absolutely have a panic attack? People do a lot of strange things. I've seen them in every emotional state that you can imagine. And in those heightened states, sometimes people do strange things, and I have no idea. And that will be something that absolutely she will be questioned about in court. No ifs, ands, or buts. That's going to be a question because there's a timeline based on that. Gail Hurd gifted a True Crime Web membership. But yeah, I tried to do everything I could. Demead says True Crime Web. I could be, or it could be that she thought it was some guest of the other roommates at first. Do you think that would be possible? So many kids coming in and out of the house at all hours. Absolutely. And that, as we discussed the other day, is that may have been one of the things that led her to be able to identify those facial features that she saw, for the fact that human nature is that you see someone in low light or otherwise, you focus upon their faces trying to identify them. And is that what she did? I believe so. Yes, we have a term for it in law enforcement, Anna. After such a strenuous crime, maybe the perp was in a zone or whatever athletes describe as super focus. In law enforcement, we call it tunnel vision. And it happens during a lot of either gun battles, fights for survival, all those high tense situations where you're fighting or otherwise close quarter battle, that you'll get that tunnel vision. And everything is totally focused in on one thing. Your mind's running 1,000 miles an hour. You think everything's in slow motion, and it's not. It's just that your mind is processing everything at such a heightened sense of awareness. It's just so much data overload, and some people can handle it. Some people lock up, and I've been there, seen it. Um, I wonder why he would have walked past her. Well, like I said, if that was his point of entry, and I've been on stakeouts and watched hundreds of crimes being committed, and during my stakeout career, and generally, the way a person approaches the scene is the way they leave the scene. It's something they scoped out, something they planned. And so if he gained entry through that back door, then he would have egressed and left back through that same because he has everything set up along that route. That's the shadows, he's evaluated the outside environment. He knows where the trails are. He knows how he can get as close to his target as he can without being seen. And when you leave the scene, same thing. How can you get away from that scene without being someone witnessing your acts? And so happens all the time, more times than not. Yes, Demead, I absolutely believe it. It's just not that those shadows that if in the lit areas, but once he went past that uh, lighting, no matter how little lighting it was, it still had an effect, and he wasn't able to. His eyes weren't able to adjust um, that quick. Yes, it might have been a bit brighter in real life. Probably was. But even in this situation, those shadows still would have been there. And the brighter the light outside of those areas, and the shadows just would have been darker. And so I think in that sense that regardless of what that light level was, I think it would have still had the same effect. Well, as you can see, I was moving through it pretty good just from that LED glow. I mean, you can see the floors, you can see the openings um, from these areas. Um, but it is kind of dark. You can see the shadows. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Yes, and I believe he was probably targeting the two upstairs on the third level. The And like I said, I learned a lot of things from the positioning of the of where the victims would have been in that doorway. By if the hinges are correct on this version, either the door had to be almost totally open and she's standing near the threshold with the door almost behind her, or if she was standing at position two with the door and she's 28 inches in. Regardless, she's within 3.5 feet of the as he was approaching, coming through that threshold into the foyer. And this is a good point, Texas Ranger. There's quite a few others that need to watch Mr. Steve, but they probably won't believe it, and that's fine. I'll go out there and create something. That's what I created. Absolutely create it, and because the more information we have, the better off we are as have a better understanding of what went on that night. And it's is also awareness to all of us um, in our homes that. You have to be extremely careful and be aware all the time in case you are being um, some type of offender is out there watching you. And I can guarantee you, I also think he was probably very exhausted at this point and not focused on his surroundings, just wanting to get out. Yes, there's an internal clock. There always has been in our in survivals and high stress situations. You can watch some of the, it was well noted during some of the bank robberies that they had a timeline that we aren't going to be here. And even when I was being trained for the CSI world and the some of the um, um, psychology and profiling courses I took, there's an internal clock that that happens when these offenders are in the act of a crime. And one of the rules they taught us that is when you're with a victim of a homicide, there's a clock going off inside of you that you can only be there so long. For the fact, the longer you're with the victim, the more likely you'll be discovered. And would he have had this fear factor of all the noise? Because he would have been firsthand witness to what was being, what were the sounds during these struggles, what was knocked over, what was broke, and he would have been in those height and tunnel vision, and his senses would have been wide open. And so, and he could have been tired from it. For the fact, it's not easy fighting multiple victims. I fought multiple offenders and was lucky to survive them at one time. I've been there. Her secret's got questions. Yes, Olivia too. I agree that he was either hyped up or on those or on adrenaline. And yes, everybody handles high stress situations. Unner says that when something crazy happens with her, her brain treats it as if it's um, uh, like it's some type of fantasy. It's not real. It's a movie, as she says, or it's too unbelievable to be real. That the emotions come much later. Absolutely. Let's see here. Matt said the mannequin's face kind of looks like BK, and it does. As soon as this finished play is out, yeah. Let me get my. And then if this is all that she saw as far as the facial things, like I said, if the profile or full facial, we just don't know what the lighting conditions were and how well lit. Now, law enforcement knows because they would have talked to the witness. The witness would explain exactly which lights were on. And if her lights were off in her room and the lights were off in the kitchen, the lights were off in the foyer, and even if the lights were totally on, even in the as you could see in let me get my slideshow up here. That in this position here, from this fully lit room going into an area that's darkened, you almost can't see her even in this condition here. And how many of y'all would look at this and study it? You might be able to blow it up and brighten it up a little bit and see that, oh, there is someone standing back there. But even in this condition here, and she has backlighting, or this scene has backlighting that if I thought about it, I would have turned those off. Didn't think about it, as always. There's always things that you realize as you do these presentations. And a lot of truth in what Truth Exposed is speaking of here, that he could have been out of gas. And I absolutely believe he was, regardless of how good an athlete the offender was. There's a lot of things counting against him. And he, when the first victim fought back, he will start realizing the forensic, hello, forensic, good to see you, that his element of surprise was gone. Let's see here. Getting caught up in chat. Let's see. I'm only about 10 or 11 minutes behind right now. Yeah, we got same message popped up several times there. Miss Cyrene, good to see you. Glad you're here. Just trying to get caught up on everybody. True Crime Time. Someone, I think it was in some, I saw or heard something. I don't know if it was from the attorneys when they were talking about his youth and some of the conditions that he suffered earlier on in life and those effects. But there was something about some condition he had that could cause that, and don't know. Andy, good to see you. Do you suppose he knew the layout of the house? It's possible if he had been there before, or if he had scoped it out before. And what other type of crimes had he committed? I've worked a lot of cases where you have peeping toms that they'll come into an area, they'll look through those windows, they understand. They'll go from one window to another. And if it was a party house, he may have had access to it of just walking in. Or he may have visited while they're in class. When you're talking about some of these offenders, they absolutely will interject and take advantage of every situation, and knowing that everything they can about their victims, putting them under surveillance, that he may have known far more about that residence because he had been in the area, if we go by what the affidavit says, multiple times that they know of. But how many other times had he turned his phone off or left his phone home? We have no idea. and could have went to that area. It's very possible that he made several runs, but for whatever reason, on this night is the night that he decided to act. Yes, yeah, when she yelled that, absolutely truth. And this happened to me every time as I went through, you know, um, when I went through this lit area and using these lights and coming into them. Let me play it again while I'll go through the chat trying to catch up on questions. That every time I left those lights and first entered into that darkened foyer opening, that yes, my eyes absolutely would overlook anyone. Yes, that's what I was just speaking about, Carlene. Absolutely. There is that possibility. And Anna, I'm with you about dogs. Not that a lot of people ever come to my house. If they did, it probably, by the time they looked at what's on the coat rack and if the offender is still dressed, that they would have a strange opinion of me. But yes, I have my dogs, trust them extremely well. But I also keep those dogs that I've seen a lot of people that have certain skill sets as far as criminals that can bypass alarms. But I never saw anyone bypass a dog. Them dogs, they can hear and they can smell, and regardless of their size, they'll wake you up and let you know that there's something wrong. And that's my biggest thing is I just want to know that there's something wrong within my household. Yeah, Gail, One True Crime Web membership. Again, thank you. I think it's new one. Uh, Tamara Brown, this is my first time here. I like your presentation. Thank you. I appreciate that. And if y'all do like this, absolutely give it the thumbs up, share it, subscribe, tell your friends, because as we grow, where our channel grows and everything, we have a larger impact as we move out, and we've got a lot of things that's coming up this year, and we appreciate it. Something DOR. Was a knife visible to the witness in your demo? Only if I did it. I think it was done. That demo was Thursday night, and only in just for a split second, just a frame or two of in that video where I stopped it. And so it could have been easily overlooked, especially if she didn't recognize the offender. Whereas law enforcement, we're trained to look at hands. Human nature is if you see a stranger and you're trying to identify them, you look at their facial features. You've got somebody in your house and you're thinking, is that my cousin? Is that my brother? Is that my neighbor? Who is this? And you're trying to look at their facial features. And like I said, I think that's how come she could tell so much about his details of his bushy eyebrows. She was trying to identify those facial features to see if she knew him. And with that going on, yes, the knife could have been, you're looking at 2.5 to 3 feet lower than the eyebrows on this individual who's over 6 foot tall. So it would have been easily that if he was holding that knife in hand, that you wouldn't have seen it. And let me, I think I may even have that here. Let me remove that and pull this up. Yeah, if you look at this, this is from the other night. When you look at this slide, the one on the left is in those low light conditions. The one on the right is slightly brightened, just a little bit. And then I went in and brightened it even more. And so when I adjusted the contrast, you can see that, and this is scenario that I made from the other night, just trying to identify the knife, it would be extremely difficult. All right. Yeah, the knife could have been visible, but she would have had to be looking for it. J Farm. And I absolutely 100% J Farm and I are on the same page. And I think he would have had that tunnel vision plus the lighting and the shadows. Even if he didn't have tunnel vision, the shadows would have hidden her, I think. And that's why I did this. That even regardless if he didn't have tunnel vision, he was in total control, that the witness would have been hidden in those shadows. I feel relatively comfortable in that. And if the offender is Kohberger, is he going to say, well, I just missed her? He will if he confesses and to the crime and has to explain. But we just don't know. And get called up. I'm only about 10 minutes behind, guys. So if you got any questions, throw them in there. And I absolutely agree. I think it's a miracle she was not seen. Like I said, well, I did it with the intent. And like I said, I stacked the deck for the fact that if she had on dark clothing, um, it would have even been harder to see. Man. Do you think he came back later to look for the knife sheath? Um, Not that night. I told you that's so high risk that I think that he realized it. Now, if he left it, and the strongest point of him leaving it as some type of signature is that there's not a lot of DNA on it, and there's only that one part of it. So, with it being wiped cleaned, that's an oddity. And why would he do that? You would only clean something with such detail if you anticipated that, oh, I may lose this or drop this or forget it, or you're leaving it as a signature. So there's an argument for that. Yes, he was going to leave it because almost everything other than inside from where they said that snap was the only place that DNA was found. And that's not normal that, that is you handle a knife, sharpen a knife, take it out of the sheath, handle it multiple times. That if you took any of my knives, not only will you find my DNA on them for the fact for my injuries and all the synthetic blood, that if you luminol any of my sheaths, they're going to light up. No ifs and buts about it. And actually, I need to do that. I've got some sheaths that I used for the last 40 years, and I need to luminol those and see how they light up. That'd be interesting. But and so there's some argument that why would a knife sheath be so clean from DNA unless it was meant to be left? And it's just something to consider. And Tate, good to see you. And he may have. I mean, we don't know the condition of his clothing or whoever we don't know. Riveting content I have. I see. I fell asleep before the stream started. Oh me. Oh, that's funny. Oh, I appreciate you being here though. That made my night. Yeah, there's so much stuff out there that's on social media and the videos that were posted that absolutely, if he's stalking, cyber stalking, there's a lot of different things that could have happened. And Matt, you may be absolutely 100% on that the neighbor's camera, and it will play a huge part in it. The timeline we know for sure. And yes, that's law enforcement put that in their probable cause. That's what part of the reasons. And when they looked at the video, he matched it. Yes, Sharon, I agree with you on that about the looking at the face, not seeing the knife. Boo sheet. Hello, Paula Lee. Yes, the Murdoch. Thank you, Kat. That's very kind of you. True crime. Something instinct made her not confront him, even innocently, if thinking he was a friend. She didn't cry or say, "Can you guys keep the noise down?" Good point. Uh, wow, that would have been something if she just stepped out in front of him and said, "Who are you?" Yes, we may have had an additional one. Uh, hello. Excuse my interruption. No interruption. Appreciate you being here. Why wouldn't you make sure doors were locked after seeing a stranger leave? Don't know. I don't know her medical condition. Don't know her intoxication level. Don't know anything about her. Shock, fright. I have no idea. And other than maybe shutting her door and locking her door, she felt safe with doing that. I have no idea. Good question. And Gail Hurd gifted one true Crime Web membership. Thank you. Peter Johnson, I've got this Google machine down. I'm working on it. I'll be so glad when Mrs. Steve gets back down here. Like I said, she's just exhausted. She's been on the road all day. And absolutely, this is just as good a point as anything. A lot of people forget this was a party house. I'm sure the roommate thought her roommates were awake. Absolutely. Good point. Very possible. Yes, serious. Yes. If I saw an individual, and I watched a lot of crimes and people staging crimes and coming by and profiling a residence. Is this a residence I want to break into or a vehicle I want to break into? Because we did a lot of stakeouts and we staged a lot of things for those with criminal thoughts that we made it easy that if they wanted to commit a crime, they could commit a crime. Um, that they'd walk by it, and when they leave the area, then you just didn't think that they were the ones responsible for anything. And then the next day, you see them again, and then they knock the window out. Been there. That sometimes you do just see someone that could actually be a criminal, and they walk right past you, and you think, well, they're not a threat to me, so they're not a threat to anyone out in the house. A lot of times on the DP that it's on the table exactly for this reason to get those plea deals. Uh, Maria Torres, $5 super sticker. Thank you, Maria. Very kind of you. Bushi, is it possible when the car was seen in the 9 o'clock hour near the house, could he have been being picked up as someone drove the car? Early on, I think some of the first lookouts by law enforcement, they were talking about occupants in plural. Is Was that something they were thinking at that time, or were they just fishing, trying to get someone that if you were there and you know what happened, that this is your out to come forward and step? There's a lot of strategy that law enforcement uses at certain times, and they make certain releases, and they're fishing. Happens all the time, you know. Uh, Cynthia, I'm sorry I'm late. No, you're not late. Peggy, $5 super sticker. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, and this is going to be a huge part about his phone's pinging being turned off during the critical time frame of when the crimes were committed, and absolutely, all of this is going, I think, come back to haunt him in trial. And that's a good point. Yes, Groucho Marx. Yeah, and if for y'all the younger generations, if you don't know who Groucho Marx is and his eyebrows, go and look him up. You'll find a cigar and eyebrows. Cynthia Gaines, $5 super sticker. Thank you, appreciate that. And I'm with you, Bama. It just absolutely aggravates me for the fact that they'll never be able to do what I just did. Now, they may be able to recreate and rebuild it, but will the court allow them to do it? I don't know. We're just going to have to see what the court allows. I have no idea if they'll ever be able to, how they're going to bring the crime scene to them. They may have done things exactly what we just did and recreate those low light conditions far better than what I have to work with. Absolutely possible. I don't know. Yes, Maria, that's a good point. That the during our pandemic, that yes, the mask could have led to a false sense of security. Absolutely. Um, Hopefully, she's try to say that she wanted to come down and do a surprise tonight and everything, and but you could look in her eyes, and she was um, nodding off. She doesn't, she does enough work and long hours tonight. And I said, no, there's no need. We'll get you in here next week. So I'm looking forward to it. No, I did not get one. I've about given up almost all my hunting now. I've had my days back in the time when Mrs. Steve would get on to me when I'd open the front door and shoot down the foyer and wake her up, and she didn't appreciate that. Yes, Mrs. Steve is upstairs, and uh, Bad Mannequin Guy is fully assembled. I'm gonna be in trouble for that. My skeleton's on my raincoat or on my coat rack, which she already knows that one. Um, Micro. I hope the survivors are getting the help they need on this. It was so traumatic. I appreciate the hard work you put into your content. Keep rocking. Thank you, Micro Kimmy 999. Thank you. That's very nice of you. Getting caught up. Getting caught up. Yes, Kat. I'm extremely happy Mrs. Steve is back. NR, good to see you. Yeah, Blackware. I have some great mods. I have a great chat. I have a great community, and I owe so much. We're in awe. Mrs. Steve and I, we talk about that a lot. Everything everything falls in place. Absolutely amazing. We thank everybody. Yes, I believe in dogs. Absolutely, dogs are good. Rustafora, I said my nickname was Harpo. That's funny. I mean, it's creepy Steve's basement. It, yeah. If you came down here right now and look at what I'm looking at as we speak, yeah, uh, it would. You would have some. Who lives here and why? Yes, Carlene. We've been apart too long. Uh, Thank you. Yes, the control tests and experiments I try to do, and just try to get everybody in the community to look at it. And you know, a lot of comments came in, some emails came in, and it sometimes it takes me a day or two trying to figure out exactly how I can reconstruct some of this stuff. And so you just have to bear with me sometimes. But if you have anything you want me to look at or try to recreate, send it to me. If I can figure it out, I'll try to do it. All right, finally got caught up. Now the courts, I'm I'm sure that there are people out there that like I said, there's some 3D imaging, there's lasers, there's technologies out there, uh, uh, Pharaoh and everything that they can bring in and do recreations on that will almost get it to the level of or at least I'm hoping. And we just don't know what the courts will allow with some of the newer technology. Some of it has been around for a while, and of course, that'll be admitted. But I believe they have some people out there far better qualified than I. You are correct. If they ever come to my house, they will find it extremely confusing. All right. Well, guys, I appreciate everybody being here. If you like this, give it a thumb up, share, and suggest it to your friends, families, and everything. We appreciate it so much. And let me get this to the proper slide to end my show on. And a lot of slides in it tonight. And but I appreciate it. Before I go out, I'll go through the slides so that if anyone that's here late, they can see how I staged everything, what I recreated, why I did it. I had two positions for the witnesses, views from where the positions of 1 and 2 were, positions of where the offender would have been looking at where the witness stood, and some of these images you can see in the low light conditions, how easily it would have been able to miss, and all the light sources that I used for this. But anyway, but appreciate everybody. Y'all stay safe out there, and we'll see you soon. And like I say, share it, give it a thumbs up. We appreciate it, and we'll see y'all next week, guys. Tomorrow, I'll have a members only for everybody that are members. So we'll see you tomorrow evening for all our members. Thank you.